And so this week we're going to deep dive a little bit more and talk about parameter. So I hope everyone is aware of, if you're not aware of what is a parameter in Tableau, no worries, we're going to show you how to use it today. So in Tableau, you can use parameters and filters. Parameters are commonly used to create additional types of interactive filter. So they're not in themselves filters, they're more like variables. And as such, they are not really useful on their own. They have to be part of something else, as an equation, a filter, a reference line, a calculated field. And that's what Tableau calls parameter controls. It's usually a slider, like what you see here, a menu selection, or a typing field. During this webinar, we are going to use a workbook which can be sent to you after this session. We'll talk about parameter use case, and focus on the most useful and easy one that you will probably use in your analysis. So these are the main topic for today: top N sets, how to swap, how to integrate a parameter in calculation or filter. I think for the first 6, it will take like 30 minutes. And if you can stay longer, you can see how we can swap mergers in LOD. Great, so let's start. The first thing I'm going to show you is the most easy but still very useful things to do with a parameter. To give a little bit of context, we will use 4 different data sets today. And so the first exercise, we'll use the food calorie dataset, which contains food names assigned to different category and type. And in this exercise, I want to see the top 5 or top N, whatever number it is, food in terms of calorie content, and allow my users to adjust the top N number. So how we are going to do this? Very simple. So here we see the dimensions and the measures. So a little explanation again. Dimension is usually used to slice and dice your data, where a measure is items that you can aggregate or make calculations on. And the parameter in the set didn't appear yet, so we'll make that happen. So first of all, double click on food, it will go directly on rows. And then we're going to drag food in filter and select top, and here by field. So I can select filter by top something. So I can put a numerical value or create a parameter. So if I want to select the top N, food, for example. So this top N will be an integer, and we will use a range of value with minimum 1, maximum 10. So this will be the configuration for the widget and the slider that is going to appear. So here in a few clicks, we just created a parameter with a filter. When I will click on apply, the parameter will appear automatically. So what just happened with this filter is that we could create a top N parameter to filter my items. So the viewer can use this parameter and see whatever top N he wants to see. This is very useful, not only to interact with your Vs, but also because the difference between a filter and a parameter is that you can use parameter on different data source, which is not really possible with a filter. Okay, so simple thing. In the next exercise, we're going to see how to show the top n with a set, and how using a set can be useful. So we're going to create a parameter nested into a set, and so we're going to start the same way. And this time, instead of creating a filter, we're going to create a set by right-clicking on food, create set, and here we'll change this name on top and food set, and we can reuse our parameter. So this is a parameter inside a set. So I want my top and food given the average calories. Okay, and I created a set and it doesn't do anything yet, which is normal. I'm going to show my parameter. And because you have to put the set in this mark shelf, so that something happens. So we're going to put this in the color shelf, and what will happen is that we'll see everything which is in and out of the set we have defined. I'm going to explain this. So if the viewer selects top 5, everything which is in the top 5, inside the top 5 will be in a certain color, and everything which is out of the top 5 will be in another color. So in this case, you want to use a set instead of a filter to have the ability to show what is inside or outside of your top n. So yeah, this is the main difference. If you have any question, don't hesitate to use the Q&A box. We have some panelists today who will be happy to answer any of your questions. Otherwise, we'll have some minutes to answer your question at the end of this webinar. Now, I would like to see both the top n and the bottom n food by calorie count in the same view. Is that possible? Yes, it is. If we use a combined set, so here we're going to see how we create a bottom n and a combined set. When do I need this? Well, if I want to quickly see what is the most and the least profitable customer or product in my V's in one glance, or if I want to see what is the best and the least selling product in my store, for example. So this is what you can use it for. So let's start same way, and I'm going to drag this previous set we created into color and create the bottom food set. So to create the bottom and food set, I'm going to right click on food, create a set. I'm going to call this set bottom and food set, and I want to have my bottom end by, so in Tableau it's really easy. You can click top or bottom. So you can have your bottom whatever value, or make it a variable with your top end parameter. So it's the same procedure as the top end, except that we have clicked bottom instead. Okay. So what happened here, we have our top end set and a bottom end set, and we're going to select them both in the set area, click right, and create a combined set. So by creating this combined set, combine top and bottom end set, in this case, I want to see all the members in both sets, and I will see only my top end and my bottom end items. by dragging this into the filter shelf, and let's make our parameter control appear, and then it will be more visual. So let's say I want to see my top 10, and now I'm going to edit this. I can see easily my most caloric items and my least caloric items. So I can see, so you can do that with any other kind, your best selling product or your least profitable account, like whatever. But it's really good to do a very quick analysis on the top and the bottom, and you can sometimes identify like issues and stuff like that. So yeah, and so you can the viewer can change it interactively using this widget on the side. Okay, let's have a little break and see the Q&A. Okay, I don't see any question. Good, so let's follow on. And I'm going to show you now how to create a moving average with a parameter. We have seen how to use parameters combined with filters and sets, and how to see top and bottom end in the data set. Now let's look at how to use a parameter in a calculation. Yes, because parameter can be very useful when they are combined with some calculation. In this example, I'm going to show you how quickly it is to make a dynamic moving average. Moving average are very popular and powerful visual trend spotting tool. So in this example, I'm going to take the diabetes rate data source, and I would like to calculate a 3-year moving average of the diabetes rate for people age 1844, and allow my end user to adjust the calculation. So because it's a moving average through the years, I'm going to drag the years. I just did a double click, and if I double click on diabetes rate, Tableau show me a trend. So we have already answered our first question by doing this. We have the average, so it's not a moving average; it's just an average trend. And so to create my moving average, I'm going to copy this trend line by pressing Control here on the measure pane and dragging it here. And this just created another trend line. So for this second trend line, we're going to apply a quick table calculation, which is the moving average table calculation. And to make it more visual, I'm going to change the color of this one. Okay. And we're going to combine these two trends. So this one is the moving average, and this one is the normal average trend. We are going to click here, right click on the second measure, dual axis, and in one click we just combine these. So great, I have my moving average, but it's a static one. I want to make it dynamic. So I'm going to change the calculation of the moving average by bringing this back into the measure, and we're going to call it the moving average 1844. Okay, and I'm going to create a new parameter, which will be the number of years, Number of years is an integer, and let's say we can put all different integer. Okay, so I just created a parameter that I'm going to insert in this moving average calculation. So I'm going to right click moving average calculation, edit. And we have this formula, which I didn't write myself. It was part of the quick table calculation. And I'm going to replace this number 2. So it's -2 because it's from the 2 previous row to the current row. I'm going to make it this item dynamic and insert my parameter. Okay, so how do you know that it's a parameter I just talked about? Because it's going to appear in purple. Okay, and now I'm going to show the parameter control. And if I change the number of years, my moving average will change. Voilà. So in this example, we can switch between, 2-year parameter or 5-year moving average of the diabetes rate by entering a number here in the parameter widget. Okay, and putting in the different context for financial markets, for example, moving average greatest strength is its ability to help a trader to identify a current trend or spot a trend reversal. This parameter will also help you to make an easy what-if analysis on a trend. Okay, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. I see that there are not many questions today, but feel free. Now we're going to move on and see how we can do the same top end, but on a selected category of product. So I want to see the top end customer who bought a specific product and the amount they spent just on that product. For that, we're going to use the Superstore dataset. So can change, connect to Superstore. I want to see my top end customer by sales. Okay, and so let's filter a customer. I want my top end customer. This is what we're looking for, top end customer. So I do the same as in the first exercise, filter customer by top end. So I'm using the previous parameter, but of course, if you didn't have the parameter ready, you can just create a new one. It's really easy. This one will be by sum of sales. So click OK. And going to show my parameter control so that we can interact with the V's. I see. So this is pretty similar to what we did before, but we want to combine it with another parameter. So let's create a new parameter to allow the viewer to select the product. So there are 2 ways to create a parameter. You can either click right anywhere in the measure or the dimension pane, or you can click here on the little arrow. Okay. So we're going to create a select product parameter. This time, the product is not an integer, it's a string because product names are strings in general. And we're going to integrate a list for this one because we want people to select within a list of products. And I can write them down, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to add the field directly by clicking add from a field. And this is what will appear in all the list that the viewer can interact with. And I'm going to add a last one to display any. Okay. Let's show this new parameter. And let's see, I changed this and okay, nothing happened. This is totally normal because we haven't attached this parameter to a calculation. So we are now going to create a true-false type of calculation that will use this select product parameter. Go in the data pane, select subcategory, and we'll create a calculated field, which we will call filter. So this one, so I will integrate my select product or so we see that I've used the parameter in purple and the subcategory field that appears in yellow. If it appears in black, usually you should type it again because it's not. It means it won't read at the right field. To explain this calculation quickly, it means that when you select a subcategory here, it will show the specific category. But if you select any, which is the last one I created here, it doesn't match any subcategory field, so it won't filter on anything. So it will show all. Click OK. And of course, it doesn't do anything yet. We have to drag this. We see that it's a true-false here. True-false filter in the filter shelf, filtering by true. And now we can see the answer for our question for both parameters. So I can see here the top end by product. And of course, you can, if you want to make it more visible, you can drag colors, add labels. But yeah, the point that I wanted to show you is just that you can make this interactive for the viewer to select two different parameters to interact with these. Okay, is everyone still following? Do we have any question? So parameters, as you can see, is very useful to interact with the V's, and we're going to see another way to interact with the V's by swapping dimension. So what does it mean by swapping dimensions? So you want to see a V by changing the dimension here, which is in your dimension pane. So in this example, I would like to see the average calories burned per hour and see it either by category or by activity. I'm going to use a parameter in this case, keeping the same measure in the V's. So this exercise is about calories, so we're going to use a different data set, the exercise calories one. Let's create our little widget. Activity category, string, list of values. So in this one, I said that I wanted to switch between activity and category. So I'm going to type activity and category because this is the two options that the viewer will have. You have to be careful to match exactly these with the dimensions name here. It's usually case sensitive as well, so be careful about the capital letters and the other letters. So these are the two dimensions I've put in my list. Okay. And for this one, we're using a different calculation, which is very useful in Tableau. It's a case statement. So let's create a case statement calculated field with our new parameter. I'm going to call this activity in category. So just type case, and you can see the detail here on the right side. Case, when, else. We're going to see how it works quickly. So you integrate the parameter in the beginning of the calculation. So in this case, so when people select activity, then it will show the activity dimension. Okay, and when people will select category in the parameter, then category dimension will appear. Okay, so this is how we integrated the parameter in a case statement. Note these can be case sensitive, so be careful when you type all these with the capital letters. Let's drag this new calculation here in the row pane and show our parameter control and see. All right. So what this is doing is that thanks to this case calculation that is in my row shelf, I can, and my parameter, I can switch and see how many calories per hour I've used according to the different activity I'm doing, or by the category of activity I'm doing. So of course, this is a specific sport example, but it's a very good use case for any of your business questions, product related, segment related, anything. We can do the same with measures. So I know that it's we're going over 30 minutes, but if you can stay like 5 to 10 more minutes, we're going to do 3 more items. So feel free to stay or to leave. Otherwise, we will send you the workbook if you want to work these exercises afterwards. So we have seen how to swap dimension. Now we are going to see how to swap measures. I would like to switch between different weight classes. Note here in the measure pane that we have 4 measures of calorie burn, 1 for each class. So how can I combine them into one dynamic measure in the view? First of all, we have to create a parameter for our different measures, our different weight classes. So if you look at the data pane, you can see that there are 4 weight class, 60 kilos, 70, 80, 90. So we're going to create parameter for that, for people to interact with the measures, which will be called choose weight. So the viewer can make his selection according to a list, 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay. Same thing, I'm going to show it now. And we're going to create a calculated field according to this parameter to make it interactive. Oh, sorry. So let's call this calculation calories burned per hour. So in the case when the user choose first case 60, so means 60 kilo, then what happened? Then the V's will be, the result of the V's will be done according to calories per hour, 60. So this, you choose it. Of course, you can do it with other type of measures. This is just an example. So when they choose 70, then they can see the measure specific to the calories per hour for this weight class. No, 90, then can do this. Okay. End of the selection. Okay. Cool. So same as before. I'm going to drag it in the color pane and see how it's to visualize it by activity. Okay. And okay, just playing around. So imagine if I choose the weight 60, I can see that the different the average of the calorie burn per hour per activity. But if I want to see what happened with a different measure, if for people who are 70 kilos, 80 kilos here, or 90, this parameter can help me to swap different measures. So we need a parameter, calculation, case, when, and then here we go. You can change the measure in your V's. So now we have seen how we can swap measures and dimension using a parameter. Hope it's pretty useful. Those parameters can allow your viewer to interact with your dashboard. We're going to see a last one, how to swap the level of detail. So sometimes when you hear about the level of detail with Tableau, it can sound a bit complicated, but this one is very simple. I'm going to show you how to adjust the level of detail with a parameter from a high level detail to a more granular level of detail. In this example, I want to enable people to switch between viewing a trend of an overall average diabetes rate, which will be a line trend. I'll show you right now. There, diabetes rate per year. Okay, Tableau does this job perfectly. So now we have answer the first question, viewing the overall average diabetes rate. Okay, but I want to have this rate broken up by state. How do I do? Well, if we want to break up by state, it means you want to go to a more granular level of detail. Well, let's create a parameter to swap our LOD. So create a parameter. Swap LOD. So people can choose between showing all the states or showing the trends by state. Let's show parameter control. And again, I'm going to create a case in a calculated field, right-click calculated field. We'll call it level of detail. And use the case again, using the parameter we just created. So when the person clicks select all, then he will see all the combined average. So for your information, you don't need to write combined average here. This is not related, but you have to write something after the then so that the calculation works. Then when he selects by state, then we will get the breakdown by state. Okay. So how we can see our level of detail, drag it in. Okay. Nothing happened yet because I want to see it breaking down by state. Awesome. So I could now see all the different states. So I went to a more granular level. And if I want to see only one or the overall trend, I just have to use my widget, my parameter. Now this is one of the use case for parameter. And last one, how to use a parameter to see my KPI visualization. There are a lot of KPI visualization according to a certain threshold. For example, in this example, we have geolocalized data from Australia for the diabetes rate. So I'm not sure if the data is accurate or not, but it's very good for this example. So connect to diabetes rate data source. If you double click on state, I'll show you different states in Australia. So, and it brings the longitude and the latitude automatically because there is the little globe here. So now I want to create a KPI based on a threshold. So let's create the threshold first through a parameter. We'll call this threshold KPI threshold. So we want the threshold to be dynamic. I'm going to make it a range of value. So it's a very small percentage. So let's say the threshold will be 1.5. And the step size cannot be 1. It's so big because it's a small percentage. Okay. Show this parameter control. And we are going to insert this variable. So now the parameter will be used as a variable in the calculation. So for a KPI calculation. So I'm going to create a new calculation, click right on the diabetes rate, create calculated field. We'll call this KPI. I want to see the average diabetes rate. So it's a true-false calculation. Here we insert our parameter. To explain this quickly, so if my average diabetes rate is above the threshold, it will run true, and if it's not, it would run false. Okay, so if we put this true-false calculation into color, we can see that, so if the statement is true, so anything above my KPI threshold, it will be displayed in a certain color. If it's under the threshold, it will be displayed in the other color because the calculation will run false as a result. And this is very, if you're not sure about what threshold you want to put, it's a very dynamic way to change your KPI threshold and interact with your Vs. KPI indicators are very commonly used in general. I use a map today, but it can be done on a graph or anything on a reference line as well. I hope this presentation was useful for you. There are plenty of other things that you can do with parameter, but that's all we have for you